All right, time now for our rants and raves of the week, starting with you, Dan.
Well, I have a rave for the media in general, and for Ty Burr of the Boston Globe in particular, for keeping the heat on in the case of Sandra Bland, the woman who died in a Texas jail cell recently, and for putting the focus in the right place. Because I think early on, there was an awful lot of focus on whether or not she committed suicide in jail. And, you know, unfortunately, it's looking like she probably did commit suicide. But that doesn't get away from what the real issue is here, which is why on earth was she pulled over and treated the way she was for what? Switching lanes without signaling, I guess.
She's in jail for 3 days.
And she's in jail for 3 days. You know, we saw on videotape the officer escalating the situation rather than de-escalating it.
And then lying about it.
And then lying about it. And I just think that in this particular case, I think the media from the beginning has put the focus in the right place and really kept a spotlight on this. And especially, I mean, I think anybody who hasn't read Ty Burr's commentary in the Globe today ought to take a look.
It starts on the front pages, I believe.
It does indeed start on the front page.
All right, Callie.
This is a little inside rave, but for WCAI, our sister station. But an intern
on the Cape.
On the Cape, yes, came up with this idea of turning a coffee shop, a very popular coffee shop in the town, into a place to gather more information from just regular folk. It's a place where people do gather to have conversation. You put a box in, it's called a radio box with a recorder and a microphone. They put questions up and ask people to respond, and it's working very well. It may end up being a project in other parts of the country. I love it when you can just get to the real people, because sometimes, you know, we're off talking to the folks up here, and the folks down here are like, what are you talking about? That's not what happens.
So how does it find itself
It's
to
in
the
the
air? How does it get to the air?
Oh, well, they come and collect it.
So you record your own thing?
Yes, so nobody's in there, so you can say what you want to say and whatever, and they come and collect at the end and sort out, you know, what some good comments, and can use it daily or long time or whatever.
Is it written or is it recorded?
It's recorded. There's a microphone in the box called the radio box, a recorder and a microphone.
I love that.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And I'd love to see this, particularly now we're going in election season. Be great, you know. Love to see that. I hope this, I think this is a temporary thing, but I'd love it to stay there in this coffee shop, because I'd like to wander by. And
Joanna.
So I have a rant. Takes a little setup. Earlier this week, Taylor Swift and Nicki Minaj had a little bit of a misunderstanding on Twitter. It was about a tweet by Nicki Minaj about the VMA Award. She was concerned about whether the awards were fair to black women. Taylor Swift thought this was about her. It maybe wasn't. They made up, but not before the entertainment press wrote a lot about it. And when Entertainment Weekly did a post, they put up pictures that looked a little bit uneven. And people started complaining, you know, why do you pick the picture of Taylor Swift looking just, you know, nice and kind of reasonable, and Nicki Minaj looking crazy? People complained. To its credit, Entertainment Weekly took down the picture and replaced it with one with them looking just very friendly with each other. But it, you know, it goes to show when you're putting up these quick posts, it's so easy to just grab these photos from the file. You really have to be careful. Those pictures do send a message.
yes, they do.
They were probably taking sides, is why.
Yes.
No doubt about it. All right, Adam.
I want to rant really quickly against a tradition. I'm talking about the Friday afternoon news dump. We're in the midst of one right now. Boston 2024 released what is apparently the unredacted version of their first Olympic bid. They did it at about, I think, 2 or 2:30 on a Friday afternoon. That's actually not as bad as
early,
some.
I was gonna say.
However, it's incredibly complex material. Takes a ton of work to sort through. We have people up in the newsroom doing it right now. There's no reason for politicians, organizations, whoever, to do this sort of thing. We're gonna cover this stuff anyway. We're gonna pay attention to it. It may even end up working against them. We may cover it more testily or sharply. Our tone may be more critical. Well, I don't know about that, but just give us the stuff at a decent hour. Let us work with it. This bid, they've been sitting on this thing for, you know, the better part of it, half a year.
I thought some of this dump was redacted too. And some of it is changed language?
Well, they apparently did some rewriting from the first unredacted version to the version they put out in January. But anyway, why keep us waiting until mid-afternoon on
Adam,
Friday.
that
I
has
don't get
been
it.
long time.
Oh, I know. But what's the point?
No, the point is because people who
To make you mad.
Well,
make me
also
personally.
so you have less time to respond to it in the moment.
Yeah.
But to your point, if something like that means I have now got time over the weekend,
That's true.
unhappily, but yes, to go over it. And in
Grumpily
the end, yes.
and, yep.
But I mean, you have more detail, more time to look at the detail of it. But for a long time, advisors have been telling people, you want something hidden, throw it out in the afternoon on Friday.
I'm also not even
You know.
sure that the way the media works today, I mean, it might keep us from
Exactly.
getting out of here when we want to, but when you have sort of
Oh, yeah.
minute-by-minute updates on Twitter, cable's 24/7, I don't know that it works the way it would have worked a decade ago.
I think
so
you're
I think
right.
it's annoying and ineffectual.
Right.
All right, I'm just joining a bandwagon here with a rant that was started by the news media all over the country, both on the liberal side and the conservative side and down the middle side. And that is over something the New York Times did, which was they printed a news story about an investigation into some of the email communications that Hillary released and some of the data in them and whether there's going to be some kind of a criminal, they used the word criminal investigation in the original piece. Somehow, overnight, I guess the Clinton people got in touch with Michael Schmidt was one of the writers. There was Schultz, anyway, Schmidt, I think. There were several writers of this piece. It changed fairly dramatically to the point where they're practically dialing back their original point about what kind of investigation this was. The problem was that they didn't explain the correction. They didn't say it was a correction. They didn't say they had errors. They just rewrote the piece, which is
Well, first they said we made it, so they changed it, as I understand it, and it's sort of complicated. They went from saying that there was an investigation of Hillary Clinton's handling of these emails to say there was an investigation of how Hillary Clinton's emails were handled. They switched to the passive tense, took away her responsibility. Then initially a Times spokeswoman said, well, we're not correcting because we made no factual error. And then they did correct, saying they made a huge factual
and
error.
changed the headline, which was completely turned around.
When the passive voice
Right.
comes out, mistakes were made.
Yeah.
All right, that is it for our show. Tell us what you think. Email us, tweet us, or leave a comment. We're always on at beatthepress.org.